The stars outside the ship's window looked still, like frozen lights in the sky. Inside the research station, the air was cold and clean. The walls were white and smooth, and the lights above gave off a soft blue glow. Everything felt quiet, like the station was asleep. Dr. Lyra Vex stood in the center of the lab, her arms crossed. She was tall and thin, with silver skin and dark eyes. Her long fingers held a data pad as she looked at the file of the new test. Subject. She did not smile. She never smiled. "Bring him in," she said. 2 guards walked in. Between them was a man. He looked tired. His brown hair was messy, and there were bruises on his face. His name was Jack. He was a human, taken from a small colony during a short war that ended quickly. The Zellery Lyra's people had won. Humans were not seen as strong. They were seen as animals who were good at fighting, but nothing more. Lyra looked at him like she was looking at a broken machine. She had no interest in him as a person. He was just a subject, a thing to study. The Galactic Council had made rules against testing on humans, but Lyra worked in a secret place. She did not care about rules. "Sit," she said. Jack sat on the cold metal chair. He said nothing. His hands were tied in front of him, but he did not try to fight. His eyes looked around the room slowly. He was watching everything. Lyra walked around him. She tapped her pad and spoke aloud for the recording. Test subject 47B, human male. Estimated age, 28. Physical health, stable. Mental state, unknown. Will begin cognitive trials immediately. She nodded to the guards. They placed a small device on Jack's head. Thin wires ran from it to the machines around the room. A screen lit up with patterns showing his brain activity. Lyra watched closely. She started the first test. It was simple. Images flashed on the screen in front of Jack's. Eyes, shapes, colors, words in many languages. She wanted to see how his brain reacted. Most subjects grew confused or scared. Some screamed. Jack did not. He watched the screen without blinking. Lyra wrote notes on her pad. She increased the speed. The images came faster and faster. Still, Jack showed no fear. His heart rate went up, but only a little. "Strange," Lyra whispered. "He's not resisting, but he's not breaking either." The test went on for an hour. Then the machine stopped. The screen went dark. The lights in the room dimmed a little. Jack blinked and looked straight at Lyra. "Is that all?" he asked. His voice was calm. Too calm. Lyra did not answer. She turned to the guards. "Take him back to the holding cell. Increase the neural dampeners. I want his brain slower tomorrow. We will see how he does then." The guards pulled Jack to his feet. He walked with them without a fight. But as he left, he turned his head slightly and looked at Lyra. His eyes were dark and quiet, like deep water. She felt something cold in her chest. She pushed the feeling away. Later, Lyra stood in front of a large screen in her private lab. She watched the replay of Jack's brain activity. It was not like the others. It showed strange spikes and patterns. It looked like a storm trapped inside a cage. She frowned. "What are you?" she asked the screen. Jack sat alone in his cell. The walls were smooth and white. There was one bed and nothing else. A red light blinked above the door. He closed his eyes and breathed slowly. He remembered the sky over his home. He remembered the sounds of his daughter laughing. He remembered fire. He remembered the soldiers in black armor. He remembered the cold hands that grabbed him. He clenched his fists. The red light blinked. He knew they were watching. He whispered. To himself, not yet. Lyra wrote a report for the day. She explained that the test subject was unusual, but she did not feel worried. She thought she could control him. She believed humans were simple, their bodies weak, their minds easy to break. She did not know what Jack really was. Outside the station, space was quiet. The stars still did not move, but something had begun. A change, slow and dangerous, had started inside one human. And soon the quiet would end. Asterisk the next morning, the lights in the lab turned on slowly. Everything was quiet. The air was still. The machines were ready. Dr. Lyra Vex walked into the room with her usual cold expression. Her silver skin shined under the lights. She checked her datapad and looked at the results from the first day. Jack's brain had not reacted like the others. That made her curious. She wanted more. Bring him in, she said. 2 guards opened the door. Jack stepped in slowly. His hands were tied again. His face looked calm, but his eyes were sharp. He looked at everything, the lights, the machines, even Lyra. He remembered every detail. He sat down in the chair again without a word. The guards locked his arms in place and attached the wires to his head. This time, Lyra added more wires. She also changed the machine settings. Today would be harder, she spoke to the recorder. Day 2, Subject 47B, higher level neural stimulation. Begin sequence. The test started. Sounds and lights flashed around Jack. Strange voices played in his ears. Loud, soft, fast, slow. Some were human voices. Some were alien. Some spoke lies. Others asked questions. Most test subjects lost control by this point. Jack stayed still. His heart rate rose slightly, but his face showed no fear. His hands stayed calm, his eyes were closed, but he was still listening. Deep inside, something in him watched everything. Lyra stared at the screen. The brain scans were strange again. The activity was high but controlled. It was like his brain was fighting back, but not losing. She had never seen anything like it. She tapped the screen. Increased stimulation, double input. Mixed sound with emotional triggers. The machine changed. The sounds turned into screams, explosions, the crying of a child. A woman calling a name. Jack flinched, just a little. His breathing changed. For a moment, Lyra thought she saw pain in his face. Yes, she whispered. Push harder. She added visual feeds. Jack saw flashes of war. Burning cities, soldiers, dead bodies, faces from Earth, places he once knew, people he lost. He opened his eyes. They were wet but not crying. He spoke, his voice low. You think this will break me? Lyra said nothing. She just stared. Jack looked straight at her. You have no idea what we survive. She ordered the guards to increase the dose of the neural dampener. A small device on his neck injected the drug. It was supposed to slow his brain, make him weak. But the brain scan did not slow. It did the opposite. His brain waves grew stronger. The machine made warning sounds. Red lights flashed. The system was confused. Lyra stepped back, shut it down. The lights turned off. The sounds stopped. The machine powered down. Jack sat still, breathing hard. His body was sweating. But he looked stronger, not weaker. Lyra looked at him with new eyes. This was not a normal human. Something inside him was different. She felt a small shiver in her back. Take him back, she said quickly. The guards moved. But Jack stood up before they grabbed him. He did not try to run. He just looked at Lyra. "Keep pushing," he said. "You'll see what you buried." The guards pulled him out. Lyra watched him go. Her heart beat faster. She did not like the feeling. She told herself it was just interest, just science. But deep down, she felt fear in the cell. Jack sat on the floor. The walls were quiet. No voices, no lights, just the soft hum of machines around the station. He breathed slow, in and out. He felt the drug in his body. He could almost taste it. But it did not stop him. He had learned how to push through pain, how to carry memories like weapons. He remembered the day the Zellery ships came. He remembered the burning, the soldiers taking people. He remembered the sound of his brother's voice before the blast. He held the pain close. He used it, not to hate, but to grow. Outside the lab, Lyra sat in her office. She looked at the brain scan again. The pattern was not just strong, it was changing, like it was learning, like it was adapting. How, she asked herself, what are you? She thought about what he said. You'll see what you buried. She began a report. Subject shows signs of adaptive evolution. Neural dampeners are ineffective. Emotional triggers fail to cause breakdown. Subject displays memory control, pain resistance, and rapid cognitive response. Possible genetic anomaly. Further testing required. She saved the file and locked it. Then she sat back in her chair and closed her eyes. But sleep did not come easy. When she dreamed, she saw Jack, not sitting in a chair, not tied, but standing, tall eyes glowing, hands covered in light and fire. She woke up shaking. Back in his cell, Jack opened his eyes. The red light still blinked above, watching him. Measuring him, he smiled, just a little. Not yet, he thought, but soon. Jack sat alone in his cell. The walls were the same. The bed, the light, the silence. Nothing had changed, but something inside him had. He could feel it. His body felt stronger. His mind felt sharper. The drug they gave him still flowed through his veins, but it no longer slowed him. It only made him more aware. He looked at the blinking red light. They were always watching. He did not care. He wanted them to see. Dr. Lyra Vex walked through the main hallway of the research station. Her steps were fast. Her mind was full. She had reviewed Jack's test results over and over. Nothing made sense. The neural dampeners did not work. The mental triggers only made him stronger. And now the scans showed something worse. His brain was changing, fast. His cells were active in ways never seen before. They were fixing damage, building new connections. It was like his body was evolving inside the lab. Lyra entered the observation room. A young assistant, a Zellery named Naro, stood up as she came in. "Doctor, the subject is calm," Naro said. "Vitals are stable." Lyra walked. To the screen, Jack was sitting with his eyes closed, still like a stone. But the machines around him showed high brain activity. She stared at the screen. "He is not calm," she said. "He is thinking, planning." She opened a new test file. "Prepare the memory recall sequence. Level 5. Naro hesitated. "Doctor, that level is not safe." "He is not safe," Lyra said. "Run it." In the cell, a soft tone beeped. Jack opened his eyes. The walls lit up with images. His old house, his brother's face, the sky over the fields. Then the images turned dark. Fire screams. His people running. Soldiers with cold eyes. The moment he was taken, Jack clenched his fists. His body shook, but he did not scream. He did not break. He let the pain rise inside him. He held it there, like a fire waiting to burn. In the control room, the machines beeped wildly. The scan showed a strange pattern. His brainwaves were no longer normal. They were changing, growing. Dr. Naro said, worried, "His readings are rising too fast." "Let it go," Lyra said. "I need to see where it leads." Suddenly, the screen blinked. The signal broke for a moment. Then it returned. Jack was standing. He looked at the wall, right at the camera. His eyes were open, glowing slightly. He stared, not blinking. Nara stepped back. "He sees us." Lyra said nothing. Her heart beat faster. She didn't want to admit it, but she felt it too. Feared in the lab. More scientists studied Jack's blood. It was strange. New proteins, faster healing, energy in his cells like a storm. One of them whispered, "This isn't human anymore." Lyra returned to her office. She sat in silence and watched the scans again. She zoomed in on the brainwaves. Patterns, not random. They looked like language, like a code. She remembered what Jack had said. "You'll see what you buried." She began to understand. The war had not broken humans. It had shaped them, turned their pain into strength, turned survival into evolution. Jack had not become strong because of her tests. He had already been strong. Her tests only woke it up. In his cell, Jack whispered to himself, "Not yet. They are still not ready." Later that day, a guard came to bring Jack food. The slot opened. The guard pushed the tray inside. Jack took the food and looked up. "Do you ever wonder," Jack said softly, "why they are afraid of us?" The guard said nothing and closed the slot. But he felt cold. He walked away quickly. Lyra watched the moment on the camera. She rewound it again and again. The way Jack spoke, the way he stared. It was not anger. It was something deeper, something calm, like he knew something she didn't. She began another report. Subject continues to resist all forms of control. Cellular structure adapting rapidly. Neural growth increasing beyond expected limits. Subject awareness is high. Shows signs of predictive thinking, possible telepathic reaction. Further testing must be done with care. She paused, then she typed slowly. Recommend alert to command. Possible need for isolation or termination if growth continues. But she did not send the message. Not yet. Something held her back. That night, she had another dream. She stood in a field of ash. The sky was red. She turned and saw Jack walking through the fire, untouched. He looked at her and said, "You made me." She woke up in a sweat. Somewhere in the cell, Jack opened his eyes. His body felt stronger, his skin tighter, his vision clearer. The fire inside him was growing. He smiled again. Just a little dot. Soon, the next test was different. Dr. Lyra stood in the control room. Her hands were shaking, though she tried to hide it. She looked at the camera feed. Jack was already in the chamber. He stood without moving, his eyes focused. Straight ahead, he was quiet, but there was something dangerous about him now. Something she had not seen before. Lyra spoke into the mic. "Start the pain simulation. Level 7. The machines came alive. Red lights blinked. The sound of electricity filled the room. Metal arms moved around Jack. Small needles went into his arms and neck. The system sent waves of pain signals into his nerves. This kind of test would have broken any other subject. Jack didn't scream. His jaw tightened. His breathing changed. His body trembled for a moment, then became still again. His eyes opened wide. He stared at the wall like he saw something far. Away in the control room, Lyra watched the screens. His heart rate rose, blood pressure climbed, brain activity spiked. Then something strange happened. His vitals stopped rising. They stayed steady, not calm, but controlled. Jack was adapting to the pain. Impossible, one technician whispered. Lyra leaned closer. Increase it, full output. Let's see the limit. Jack's body arched as more signals hit him. His muscles pulled tight, then relaxed. His skin glowed slightly from the heat. The metal chair under him shook, but he did not break. His voice came through the speaker, quiet and deep. You want to know what makes us strong? Lyra froze. Jack looked up at the camera. His eyes glowed softly now. We don't run from pain. We learn from it. Suddenly, sparks flew from the wires connected to him. The machines beeped in panic. Lights flickered. One of the screens turned black. Shut it down, Lyra shouted. The technician hit the emergency. Stop. The power dropped. The arms retracted. The lights returned to normal. Jack slumped forward in the chair, breathing heavy. Steam rose from his skin. His wrists bled from where the straps had dug in, but he was awake. He looked up again. Now I remember everything. The guards came to take him back to his cell. They looked nervous. They had seen what happened. They were afraid. Jack walked with them quietly. He didn't fight. He didn't speak. But the air around him felt heavy, like a storm was coming. Lyra stayed in the lab. She looked at the broken wires. She checked the brain scan data again. It was not just stronger, it was different. The patterns looked alive, like they were thinking for themselves. She opened a secure file and recorded her notes. Subject for 7B has reached a new phase. Pain resistance beyond measure. Neural patterns show signs of independent growth. Unknown. Energy forming around the subject. Possible mutation or activation of hidden traits. She stopped and looked at the screen again. She whispered, "What have I done?" Later that night, she walked to the secure cells. She told the guards to stay. Outside, she wanted to speak to Jack alone. She stepped into the room. Jack was sitting on the bed, looking at the wall. He didn't turn to look at her. "I want to talk," she said. He nodded slowly, "Then talk." She walked closer, but not too close. "You were never just a test subject. I see that now." Jack stayed silent. "You're changing, becoming something more. I don't understand how. I want to help you control it." He turned his head. His eyes locked onto hers. "You want to control it, not help." Lyra looked down. "Maybe I did, but now I see it's bigger than that. If this power grows uncontrolled," Jack stood, "then you're afraid." Lyra stepped back. "Yes, I am." Jack walked toward her. His steps were slow, not threatening, just calm. "We were kind," he said. "We tried to live in peace. You took that from us. You broke our homes, our families, and you thought you could break us too." He stood in front of her now. "You didn't break me. You woke me up." Lyra looked up at him. "What are you becoming?" Jack said nothing. He turned away and sat down again. "You'll see." Lyra left the room quickly. Her heart was pounding. She didn't know what to feel anymore. guilt, fear, curiosity. She returned to her office and sat down in the dark. The silence of the station felt heavy now. Jack was no longer just a prisoner. He was a force waiting to rise. Somewhere deep inside the lab, something else began to change. Energy readings spiked in the machines. The air felt different, and the red light in Jack's cell flickered for just a second. He smiled. It had begun. The alarm went off in the middle of the night. Red lights flashed across the station. A loud voice repeated, "Security breach. Containment failure. All units report." Dr. Lyra Vex jumped out of bed. She grabbed her datapad and ran toward the main control room. Her heart was beating fast. She already knew what had happened. There was only one place something could go wrong. Jack had escaped. When she entered the control room, officers and technicians were shouting. Screens showed different parts of the station. Smoke, broken lights, and sparks filled the hallways. "Where is he?" Lyra asked. A guard pointed at one of the screens. "He was in corridor 4. He broke through the energy shield. No one could stop him." Lyra stared at the screen. The camera showed broken walls and fallen guards, but no sign of Jack. He had vanished. She spoke firmly, "Sealed the labs. Shut off all access to the core systems. If he reaches the reactor, the whole station is at risk." The guards moved fast, but they were scared. Jack was no longer just a man. He was something more now. In the dark hallway, Jack moved like a shadow. His body was stronger than ever. The pain from the past tests had faded. His skin glowed faintly under the broken lights. Every step he took was silent, careful, and full of purpose. He passed a mirror. For a second, he stopped. He looked at himself. His eyes were glowing blue. His arms were covered in strange lines of energy. He no longer looked like the man who arrived here. He looked like a storm ready to explode. Jack kept moving. A group of guards tried to block him near the research wing. They shouted, "Stand down." Jack did not answer. He raised his hand. The lights above them shattered. The guards opened fire, but their weapons stopped working. Their systems failed. Sparks flew from their rifles. One guard dropped his weapon and ran. Jack walked through them. He did not need to fight. They were already broken. Back in the control room, Lyra watched in shock. He's shutting down our tech. How is he doing that? He's using some kind of energy field, a technician said. We don't have anything like it. Lyra knew now. This was beyond science. Jack had changed, maybe evolved, or maybe something had been hidden inside humans all along. She opened a direct channel to the council, but there was no signal. Jack had already cut outside communication. She looked at the guards. He's not going to stop. He's going for the lab. We have to stop him there. Inside the lab, scientists were rushing to delete data. They tried to erase all files about the human experiment. But Jack arrived too fast. The doors flew open. Wind and heat filled the room. The lights flickered and turned red. The scientists backed away. Jack stepped in. His voice was cold and strong. You think you can erase what you did? He walked toward the center of the lab. Machines short-circuited around him. He raised his hand, and a wave of force pushed everything back. Screens shattered. Files burned. Dr. Lyra arrived. She stood at the door, breathing hard. She looked at the damage. Then she looked at Jack. He turned to her. His face showed no anger, only calm. You came to see the end, he said. I came to stop it, Lyra said. Jack tilted his head. You still think you can? Lyra walked closer. I know I made a mistake. I pushed too far. I see that now. But destroying this place won't change what happened. Jack looked around. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for truth. The galaxy needs to know. They need to see what you did to us. Lyra's voice was quiet. Then what will you do? Jack stood still. The energy around him faded a little. I will leave. But first, I will make sure no one else repeats this. No more labs, no more cages. Lyra nodded slowly. Then let me help. I can show the Council. I can tell them what happened. Jack looked at her for a long time. Then he spoke. You will, but not today. He turned and walked toward the main reactor. Alarms screamed louder. Heat waves rose from the walls. Lyra ran after him. Wait, if you destroy the reactor, you'll die too. Jack looked back. I'm not here to die. I'm here to wake them up. He touched the reactor controls. Lights around the station flickered. A wave of energy shot through the halls. Every screen turned black. Every machine stopped. Then silence. Lyra opened her eyes. She was still alive. The station was still there. But every system had shut down. Jack was gone. Only his voice remained, playing through the speakers. This was never about one man. It was about what happens when you push too far. We remember, we rise. The message stopped. Lyra sat on the floor of the ruined lab. Around her, the station was quiet. No more alarms. No more guards. Just the sound of something new beginning. Asterisk, the research station drifted in silence. The machines were off. The lights were dim. The doors didn't open. Everything had stopped. The system had crashed when Jack touched the reactor. No one knew how, but his power had shut down the station without destroying it. Dr. Lyra Vex sat alone in the control room. Her face was pale. Her mind was full of questions. Jack had disappeared, but the damage he left behind was still here. It was not just broken walls and silent machines. It was fear, deep fear. She looked at the screen. It showed only static. All cameras were dead. All signals were gone. They had no contact with the outside world. Did he leave the station? One technician asked. No one saw him, said another. He just vanished. Lyra stood up. She walked slowly to the window. Outside, space looked peaceful. Stars still shined. But she knew peace was an illusion now. Jack had changed everything. The guards had no orders. They stood in the hallways, quiet and nervous. Some talked in whispers. Others watched the shadows. He could still be here, one said. Or worse, another whispered, he could come back. Down below, in the old testing chamber, something flickered. A weak spark danced across the broken machines. It was not power from the station. It was something else. Energy left behind by Jack. In the medical bay, a doctor reviewed the last blood sample taken from Jack. He had hidden it before the crash. Now, under a small light, he studied it again. His eyes widened. The cells were still. Alive. Not just alive, but active. They were moving, changing, dividing. The doctor leaned closer. This is not human anymore, he whispered. It's something new. Lyra called a meeting with the remaining staff. They gathered in the broken lab. Some were injured. Some were tired. All were afraid. We need to prepare a report, Lyra said. The council must know what happened, but we can't send messages, one scientist replied. Then we fix the system, Lyra said, or we find a way off this station. But the truth must be told. One guard raised his hand. What if they don't believe us? Lyra looked at him. They will, because Jack is not hiding. He's waiting. And they need to understand what they've done. She paused. Then she added, so do we. In her private room, Lyra played back the last message Jack left. His voice echoed through the silence. This was never about one man. It was about what happens when you push too far. We remember, we rise. She listened to it again and again. Remembered his eyes, calm, full of fire. She remembered his words, his silence, his strength. She no longer saw him as a test subject. He had become a warning. The next day, a small ship approached the station. It was a scout ship sent by the Galactic Council. They had received a weak signal before everything went dark. The ship docked slowly. 4 council officers stepped onto the station. They were well armed and alert. Lyra met them in the hallway. Where is the subject? The lead officer asked. Gone, Lyra said. We don't know where. Was he killed? Lyra shook her head. He left. On his own. The officers looked at each other. Impossible. No ship left this station. Lyra didn't answer. She didn't know how he escaped either. Only that he had. They walked through the station. The officers saw the broken rooms, the burned wires, the shattered screens. They listened to the staff. Then Lyra showed them the final recordings, the brain scans, the blood samples, Jack's message. The officers said nothing for a long time. Finally, one of them spoke. This report will shake the council. Good, Lyra said. It should. What do you suggest? Another asked. Stop the experiments, end the secrets, and warn the galaxy. Jack was just one. There may be more. The officers agreed to take the report back, but their faces showed doubt, fear. Lyra watched them leave. She knew they didn't understand, not fully, but soon they would dot. In deep space, a ship moved without light. It was small and silent. Inside, Jack sat at the controls. His face was calm. His eyes still glowed faintly. His hands rested on the console. He looked at the stars ahead. He was not running. He was watching, waiting, preparing. He knew the galaxy would talk about him. They would fear him. Some would try to find him. Some would try to destroy him. But he also knew the truth. He was not a monster. He was a mirror, a reflection of what happens when cruelty is met with evolution. He closed his eyes and whispered, "This is just the beginning."